Welcome to the first. You have a story. If you look back on your life, you've done things for the first time that no one in your family, in your town, in the country has done. This is Dr. Sandi. You have unknowingly paved the way for others without knowing it or even acknowledging it. This is where you tell your story so that those who come after you can walk in your footsteps to build their own firsts. Breaking barriers and setting new standards, Vanessa Franco is a trailblazer in every sense of the word. As a first-generation American, she has achieved numerous firsts in her family, paving the way for future generations. She's a natural leader as the firstborn and is the first in her family to earn a higher education degree, showing that with determination and hard work, anything is possible. Vanessa is also the first to establish a successful career as a financial advisor. And understanding the importance of mental health, she's the first in her family to seek therapy, breaking stigmas and advocating for emotional well-being, which allowed her to become an avid traveler, embracing diverse cultures and broadening her horizons. You can find Vanessa on LinkedIn and at her email at francov27@yahoo.com. Hey, everybody, this is Dr. Sandi. We are on my podcast, The First with Dr. Sandi. And this is just where we document and create a legacy for people who are doing things for the first time or having things happen to them for the first time. And it can be good and it can be bad. That's one thing I have to say. We always tend to go towards the good, but sometimes we learn more from the bad things of being a first. Today, my guest is Vanessa Franco, and she's another first. And Vanessa, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do, and we'll jump into it.
Sure. First, again, thank you so much for having me here today, Sandi. Super thrilled to share a little bit about my story. As you have already said, my name is Vanessa Franco, and I will start with I'm the first American in my family, the first to graduate university and get a higher education, and the first to really kick off the career here in the United States. I'm currently a chartered financial consultant working for an RIA firm and have many hobbies outside of work. I'm really focused on having a work-life balance. I roller skate weekly. I go rock climbing. I really do enjoy the outdoors, and excited to be here once again.
Don't know how to roller skate, and I've taught my sister and I've taught her friends how to roller skate, but I don't know how to roller skate. And I fell once, and that was it. I'm like, that falling part didn't go down well with me. But yeah, that's a great way to exercise. And so I'm definitely not the first in my family to roller skate because I just will not try that. Tell me about being a financial advisor or a consultant for people. When you're the first, you try to bring other people along with you, especially your family. Tell me about that.
Yes. So I can vividly remember when I made the switch to focus on financial planning as a career. Growing up in school, I did very well. I just noticed I was better with numbers versus the sciences or the history or literature. And when I went to college, I decided to do finance major, and it wasn't until my advisor at the time had introduced me to the idea of financial planning. He's like, just go for the financial planning 101 course and see what you think after that. And I remember sitting there and just going through the first few pages and learning about the mortgage works, the ins and outs of a credit card and car loans. And I couldn't believe that I had the answers right in a book. And I felt that I needed to run home and share this with my own family because they had their own misconceptions. They had migrated here from Colombia. So they were just trying to figure it out. They knew this is a place where they can work, just build a better future for their kids. So I took it upon myself to be responsible to teach that to my family and help them with things that they just didn't have access to the financial system.
They
So
embrace that? Did they embrace your teaching them that, or they just like I get both ways, right? Having done that, I try to teach them and like, no, this is the way I do it, or whatever. How did they do it?
Yeah, so at the beginning, it was just, they saw the excitement. So it was just like, okay, yeah, you just learned this. We've been in this country for over 20 years, and this is what we know. And it wasn't until I started implementing it in my own life, in my own finances. So when I got that credit card, I was paying it at the end of each month. I wasn't spending more than I was making. And I was able to budget myself because I had to pay for school. So I was able to just figure out how to do this without taking a loan. So I made things work for myself then I got my first job in the RA space. And that's when they were listening. And I kid you not, probably the last 3 years now, my dad is kind of taking advice from me because he's doing very well for himself. So now it's coming together.
Yeah, it takes a little like teach the parents, right? First they invest in teaching you, and now all of a sudden you have to turn around and teach them. And I remember the same thing with my mom. I wanted to do real estate very early. My family on a whole, my aunts, they would buy houses, but just to live in. They weren't buying investment property. And I remember I was about 18, I kid you not. And there was this house on the corner, an apartment building on the corner, about 2 blocks from us, and it was empty. And I'm like, why don't we all put together as a family and get this apartment building? We could all take an apartment and live in it. That was just something that I wanted my family to get into the real estate business and have a place where we could live and have rental income. And you know what? They were not ready for that. That was a little too big for them, right? And so they bought their one family house, and we all did that for a while. But at least I got them to buy a house.
Hey, that's big.
It was a start, right? So I understand what you're saying with your parents, and got to take it little at a time. But it's a big leap when you think about you're the first generation and you're implementing all these things that's benefiting them today. And so did you have anyone who was just very negative about you doing these things? There are always naysayers in our little group.
Yes. I wouldn't say negative. I would say they expressed their concerns. I feel like my mom was very supportive and just, yes, you can do it, versus my dad was more risk averse, like, hey, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? And I would explain, again, it was just misconceptions that he had for himself and the way he handles his finances, that I would calmly answer and explain why I was doing things in such a way. So yeah, but for the most part, I'd say they've been very supportive. I know they're super proud of me, and they can't say any negative things now, I think.
No, that is great. How are you sharing this with the next generation? Because I'm very focused on, once we learn something, to hand it down and making sure that the next generation's a little bit better off. So do you mentor, do you tutor? What do you do?
Yeah. No, that's great. So I think I do this in multiple ways. One, even just with my peers, being a resource to them, people that are kind of in my same, they're also first generation Americans in their family, they're in their careers, etc., outside of the finance world. So I'm being a resource to them. The second way is to the younger generation in my family, just kind of showing them the ropes. I didn't have any guidance going through school or figuring it out here, so I'm able to be that for them. And the third way, I mean, again, there's a few ways, but a third way I can think of is I have gone back to my high school to speak. I've gotten back to my alma mater to speak on financial planning and the career paths within it. And we lead the, we call it the Gen Now Impact Group within my firm. So I lead that committee and helping the next generation of professionals speak up for themselves and advocate for their careers. So those are a few ways, and I'm constantly open to other opportunities to help to my community and anyone that pretty much needs the help.
Who inspires you, though? Is there somebody you look up to say, I want to be like that person, or I see what that person's doing? And for me, a lot of times it was really like my grandmother, who was not, I've talked about her many times on this podcast. She was not an educated woman, but she was absolutely the matriarch of our family, always forward thinking, always figuring out how to make money. I think she handed that gift down to me. But she always inspired me with her attitude, from about money to work to everything. Who's that person that you can say inspire you?
That's a great question. As you're thinking, as you were talking, I like so many names, so many faces come to my head. But I'd say my mother. In my early 20s, she and my dad had a divorce, and I saw her navigate. She was being supported by my dad financially, that just seeing how strong-willed she is, and she was the one teaching me about money when I was growing up, that she really inspired me to just continue doing everything that I needed to do by myself without needing or having the support of a partner, because at the end of the day things change. So she's always been so strong, and I think that's where I really do look up to her, because sometimes people can stay in a dark place when they're thrown adversities in life. So I'd say my mom.
I had a teacher in 6th grade, Mrs. O'Neill, and she's the first teacher, I think, that just said, "You are really smart." And I was like, well, I didn't think I was that smart, but I knew I got bored easily in class. Like, okay, you taught me that already, let's move on, let's teach the next thing. And she would still be teaching it because the other kids in the class, and so I would start to talk. I was that talker that would get in trouble all the time. And she recognized this because I was bored. And so she started having me help other kids, really to keep me busy, right? But now when I think about it, it's just to shut me up. But she said, you are way ahead of the kids. You process things faster. And so she would give me more work, additional work during class time. That was like, I was in 6th grade, she would give me 7th grade work or 8th grade work just to keep me busy. And I'll be forever thankful to Ms. O'Neill, because she recognized something and invested in that, took the time with that. And I always hope people have a Mistress O'Neill in their lives. We all have a grandmother and a mom and someone who inspires us, but from the outside, it just seems so different.
Absolutely.
That to you. So anything else you think? How are you on being, you seem very young. When I say young, under 40, maybe.
Yes.
But
For
under
now.
40 seems good. How is that being a financial planner in your firm and just overall? Like, do people take you seriously, or they wonder what What does she know at such a young age?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So that was, I'd say, one of the challenges at the beginning, at the start of my career, because I've been always so ambitious and a little bit like you, just how do I get there? What's the next step? I just want to go faster. And life has taught me that you need to pause and smell the flowers and have that work-life balance. I only had kind of like a narrow vision of the future, and really looked at life where as steps, like I have to do this before I can do this, before I can do that, versus the circle of life, like, hey, I can implement a lifestyle that works for me. So with that said, all I could do is continue to learn with the technical skills and be of help to my clients or my peers. And at the beginning, it was tough because they show up to the meeting and they do see a younger person in the room, and it was just, what does she do? You can be my daughter, you can be my granddaughter. And I just focus on my strength is just being personable. I'm relating to them on the things I do know. If they want to talk about their grandkids, let's talk about them, and building that relationship. So just the trust, relationship building, that's what's really kind of helped me, where they can view me as a trusted advisor. And then it's become, I wouldn't say easier, but opening up services to those that are not rich yet or working towards or high income earners, has definitely helped relate on a personal level, just being on the same phases of life.
Where should somebody start? Let's say I'm an immigrant and I have no training in financials, and I put my money in the bank and get my little interest on it, and they come to you, or you're trying to tell them that there might be better ways to do this. Where do you start with them? What do you put them in? Teach
Yeah.
them, how do you
Yeah.
gain their trust for that?
Yeah, no, I love that question, and I personally have helped those. So, I mean, you said it first, just opening up a bank account is step number one. Applying for a tax PIN with the IRS, and budgeting would be the first three steps, just to kind of get into the financial system. So they're paying their taxes, they have a bank account, they're saving, and budgeting, right? They're thinking about lower income individuals, focusing on making sure that their necessities are met, they're saving, and then once we're kind of in a better place, we can look at different routes or different options for them.
A lot of people think you have to have money to get a financial plan.
Yeah.
What age do you think someone should get a financial planner?
Oh, so I view it two ways. Thinking about getting a financial planner, like actually paying for the services is one thing, or just reaching out to someone, just like people reach out to me, just getting the answers needed to set themselves up for success in the future. That's one way. So you can get free. There's pro bono individuals who are helping others. So it's not a service that you always need to pay for. Now, if we're 15 years later, now you're in a better space, you want to focus your time on different things outside finances, then that'd be a great time. So I don't think there's an age. It's just starting early, getting the knowledge of the financial system would be my answer.
I was in my 20s and I was working in the corporate world, allocating my money properly. I wasn't saving. And there's this woman, I'm way much older than you are. She was one of the first financial planners in this company, IDS, which was one of the first financial planning companies, right? And she came to the company where I was working, and she made all the young people, she just demanded. I was so scared of her, I just did whatever she said. She's like, I took a look at your stuff and none of you have a 401k. And I'm like, well, I'm saving my money. And, she's like, no. I'm opening up a 401k for every one of you. And there were a bunch of us in corporate at the time that were young, and especially women. And she would have a meeting with us in the conference room every 2 weeks. And she told us how much money she's taking out of our paychecks, and we cannot touch it. And she just like mastered and forced us into financial planning because we didn't learn it at home.
Right.
And she recognized that a lot of women left it up to their spouses to do this. So she's like, you are a young, smart woman, and I'm going to make sure that you have money for when you retire, or if your husband left you with 10 kids,
you're gonna be all right.
Okay. And we just followed her for a while, just aimlessly. And then one day she came and told us how much money we had saved up after maybe 2 or 3 years. And we were stunned because we didn't even look at our statements when we got it. We didn't even, do any of that. But it was shocking how much money we had accumulated. And then she put some into stocks and some into mutual fund, like different things. And we were like, wow, we have money. So it was really important to me to start learning more about that. And, God bless her. I don't even know where she is right now. But that's what a financial planner needs to do, is education of not just us, but the masses on how things are. We don't have Social Security money anymore. It's not much.
Right. And I think it's super important to think about the things that are under our control versus worrying about what's happening in the market, how are Social Security benefits, looking way beyond things that are out of control. So when you were being guided by this, what things that you can control is how you're spending your money and how are you investing it, and then just kind of set it and forget it. And the power of compound interest it's pretty powerful. And I really do find it's so rewarding when my peers come like, thank you for teaching me about my 401k. It's grown this much. I remember we started with this much. And that's that. So when you were talking about that, that's all I thought about. Yeah, I'm able to make a difference in small ways to me, but it's super big in the long term for my friends and family.
Yes. Thank you. Any final words you want to say around being the first, how it's impacted your life, or just about financial planning in general?
Yeah, I mean, I want to maybe focus on the next generation, and it's ask the questions, don't be afraid of failure, and remember your values, stay true to your values. That's really the one thing that will make you stand out from anything you want to do.
Yes. Well, thank you, Vanessa. Thank you for being on the first with Dr. Sandi. And thank you for your words of wisdom around financial planning. And hopefully someone will watch this and say, my goodness, I really want to do that. I'll call Vanessa to get me started on doing that, young and old.
Yeah, I encourage anyone, if they have any questions, I'm here to help.
Thank you so much. This is Dr. Sandi. Thank you so much for sharing your journey on the first, where no two stories are alike, even if the circumstances are similar. Let this discussion serve as inspiration for others to show what's possible, and more importantly, to produce seconds and thirds.